used to have a thing where we would say fight or be friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that meant was, listen, anything that goes against the grain of winning and being successful, then we're gonna have to fight and be friends about it. Wasn't gonna be anything about we're gonna carry this on. Hey, listen, this is the way we do it. This is how we're gonna do it. Everybody fall in line.
Well, when this is author Tim Brown, the book Uncommon Athletes, Filled with Passion, Fuel Your Purpose. And I'm just excited to have another great interview today. And I just want to remind everyone, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the channel. That way I continue to bring these positive interviews. Today I have with me Coach Anthony Thornton. I've known Coach Thornton for a while. We're both Bobcat graduates. He's a little younger than I am, so I got to make sure we get that right, that I've been around a little bit longer than him. And I've been blessed to watch him. I watched him play in high school, college, and even when he didn't know I was watching him, I was watching him, and I was always admired of his thing that's jumped out at me about him was his competitiveness. How, if he's on the field, on the court, you're in for a battle, ain't nothing gonna come easy for you. And so I just wanted to talk to him about being an uncommon athlete and just how all that evolved in him. So, Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege and an honor.
Yeah. When did you develop your interest in sports? Where did that come from? I always ask guys, where did that come from?
My mother, first and foremost, but the family science behind it between my father and my uncles being athletes. My grandfather, as I started to gain an understanding, my grandfather was known for being, my mother's father, that is, for being a really good athlete. And so it was just something that was ingrained coming up. And it was a part of our fabric, going to football games. I remember we would leave Columbus when I was, 3-4 years old. We'd drive all the way back to a little old town called Wellsville, Ohio, and we'd go watch my uncle play on Friday nights. Wow. And just in this little town, Tiger Town, the Ville, as we call it affectionately, the pageantry, right, of what high school ball was like at the time. And it was just something that it drew me in, and it's something that kept me from that time going forward. So
that's good stuff.
Just the family heritage is what brought me around the sports the way it did.
Right. So as you look back when you were getting started, what were some of those, talk about some of those coaches in the community that influenced you?
I'm going to go somewhere different because I just thought about something, and that was, I had my uncle who was my idol, but I never forget going up to my local park, Joan Park, and it was a brother. Now, I use the term wino, right? And that's me using that affectionately, Coach Brown.
Yeah.
But he was a brother he was sitting at the park on a 10-speed one day. And I remember I lived on a pipe stem street, and I walk up getting ready for the daily regimen of playing hoop at Joan. And I go, and it's him sitting on the bike, and I pass him, hey, what's happening? And I didn't know him from Adam. And I start shooting, right? And like most youngsters, you're shooting from way out,
Right.
Put shot from the side left hand,
Right.
And I never forget this brother pulling his bike up to me, parked his bike, kickstand, and he's like, young fella, yeah. He said, man, if you're gonna shoot, right, you're gonna need to shoot in this fashion. And he walked me up. He said, I'm gonna need you to walk in closer. And he set the ball for me, right? You gotta drop the ball here, put it in front of me, and just stroke it, right? I took that with me. And yes, I had coaches and I had uncles and my dad and them, but this fella, not knowing it from Adam, just coming out and showing me how to shoot. And fortunately, I was coachable, and I took it from there. My mother, who was so instrumental because on two relevant pieces for me. She took me to all the places. She found the places. It was a single mom thing. So she took me to all the little places that had, whether it be football or whether it be basketball. She took me to all these places. But even more important was when I was a hothead and temperamental, and at 53, I'm probably still the same way. But my mother was very, very hard on me when it came to that. I mean, to the point of when I say hard, like, hey, if this keeps up, you won't be able to participate. You're going to get that in order, or you don't get to come out here and play. But that was the piece. Those coaches, the Mike McCanns, the Don Henley, on the football side, I mean, those guys were powerful impacts because they were guys that gave and served their time.
Right.
And so, and then once I got to high school, man, those cast of men from Gary Carter, Marv Whiting, Tom Blake, Sanjeevi Sabai, Roger Elander, Everett Thomas, who was our athletic director, Russell Friend, who I put him at the top of the list because that was a time of desegregation when we were bused to our schools. I would have been a Lyndon McKinley Panther had we not been bused. And I actually thought I was going to until I was at the park one day and the guy said, no, we're getting bused to Brookhaven. So that group on that side, Everett Thomas, Russell Friend, when you talk to other people in the city about what their transition was like to their schools, it wasn't the same at Brookhaven. At Brookhaven, we were a lot more embraced as far as the Black community that was being bused in there.
Right. So as you speak on that, talk about the City League back during that day, during that time. You probably one of the first guys getting bused or whatnot. What was that like? What was that like back in?
Well, there were classes of guys. We get together in the '80s hoop group, and we talk about it. And man, it was ultra competitive. I mean, there were no nights off, right? And I won't call teams name out of respect, but there were some schools like, okay, yeah, that one's let's chalk that one up. But for the most part,
right.
Matter of fact, yeah. It was nights on every night, gym stacked, Tuesday night, Friday night,
right.
Women playing on Thursday nights.
Right.
It was again, the pageantry was there. I can remember, whether it be football and basketball showing up and the crowd showing out, and so that competition just bred itself to where, man, when you hit the court every night, you had to be on, you had to be mentally ready to go because it was somebody from around the way that was looking to bring it to you, especially as you started to assume a status, a nickname, things of that nature. It was on. Yeah. And man, it was something to behold. It was something very special that it's why I believe, that red apple, that logo, Columbus City Schools.
Right. So what was it about as you went through the college recruiting process? You've been a 2-sport athlete, 3-sport athlete. What was it about Ohio University that attracted you to go there and play football?
Black head coach at the time, and it was the one school that walked in and wasn't trying to guide me away from being a quarterback. I was telling the story earlier today. 7th grade. I gave up playing middle school ball or junior high ball, youth league ball, because my uncle was starring or playing for Bowling Green State University. And that's at the same time, Art Schlichter was the man, for Ohio State. So when you start looking up in the newspaper, when the Dispatch used to post, where people were at, where Art Schlichter was at in the country, Michael James Wright was number 2, number 1, number 2. They bounced back and forth. So it was the thing that spawned me to be like, I want to be a Black quarterback. I can do this too. And so it just was something that, Coach Bryant offered me my scholarship, Black head coach. I went on my recruiting visit, and man, it was the bomb. And OU has you and I both know, Athens, Ohio got a way of bringing you in, baby. So I ended up bleeding green.
Right. Good stuff. And you made your way back to the City League as a coach. What are some of those life lessons you tried to instill in those young guys? those young men, both on the court and off the court, on and off the field?
That it's a journey and it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, athletics is nothing more than the vehicle. Um, it's the vehicle that's going to take you where you need to go. In today's society, everybody's looking at it to be the cash cow for them. You know, it's the lottery. You know, but there's a price that comes with it. There's a price that you have to pay in order to be able to access it. And so those, you know, looking back at my experiences, my ups and downs, and I had a lot of downs mainly because of choices that I made off the field that made it more difficult than it really had to be. And so when I returned home, it was, you know, let me show you what I've learned off the field. Let me show you what I've learned on the field, and understand this is what it's going to take in order for you to get there. They're not handing out scholarships every single day. And you know, when that scholarship is worth, you know, today $40,000, $50,000 a year, and there's millions of young people, hundreds of thousands of young people who are trying to obtain them, are you willing to pay that price? So that's what I tried to bring back. Was the delivery of that perfect all the time? No, but the message that I was trying to bring, the intentions that I was trying to bring was, let me help you take this and use this vehicle that will drive you for the rest of your life. Because there's going to be a life after when you can't run, you can't jump, you can't shoot, you can't throw, tackle, catch, you know, sprint, long jump, triple jump. What are you going to do? So use this vehicle that's going to allow you to go forward.
I've observed you as you built your programs. There's a certain culture you were trying to create. What would you say what was the culture of a Coach Thornton's team?
We talked about grab the rock. That was the one at Mifflin for the 7 years that I was at Mifflin, and that came from going to a church service, and Pastor Covington was talking about you know, your roots and how roots of a tree grow down through the soil, but eventually it hits rock. You know, just the different layers. You know, but he talked about that root starts to wrap itself around the rock and form. So when it comes down time to cut a tree down, it's so much involved, right? In order to, you got to cut it here. But once you start snatching that base, that trunk up out the ground, it's entrenched. And so the model was, you know, as a team, this is what we have to become, right? We have to become roots that go down into the ground, coaches. We got to establish, you know, and permeate, you know, this is what we want. We want a strong, bonded, unified team that we serve one another, right? And in order for us to be broken up, it's going to be very difficult, you know, to break that up. So that was the premise of what we tried to teach. We were able to become successful by year 3. Success is it's relative to me, because again, some people think about success in winning and money, so on and so forth. Success to me was, yes, winning and those things are a byproduct of all the other things that you do and all of that culture and that you're referring to, that you established that. Once you have done that, then it just becomes a byproduct. We were talking before we aired or you started recording. We started talking a little bit about that at Brookhaven, you know, what that was like. And I just know those days when there were no banners on the wall, nothing. And we were getting the crap kicked out of us physically, right? My freshman year is football, not, you know, the JV squad, we were winning, but varsity wide, we weren't. And I remember Coach Carter stopping our practices and said, "Yeah, no, we're going to start right now." Right. And that culture was, we're going to become more physical. That's where Brookhaven comes from, that physicality piece of it. We established that. And that's what generated what everybody is seeing in when it closed in 2013. And that was a 30-year run, right? In all the sports, right? Because the mentality and the culture changed. So those are the things that I brought the basis and the foundations of what I was taught and tried to bring that forward. So, yeah, culture and and legacy and foundation, man. Those things, those principles, man, don't go anywhere.
No, they're true then and true now. You know,
Yes.
as you were at Brookhaven, there's something about the Haven circle of friends. You know, can you talk about that, the closeness that you guys have and still have to this day?
Because one of the things when they delivered their message, and I'm talking about Gary Carter, Marv Whiting, Tom Blake, and that group, Everett Thomas, Russell Friend, right? Ora White, right? Mrs. White, and everybody else in that building, right? Teachers, faculty. They just bred something in us that it ultimately spread out to be family, right? We came from the same neighborhood, so on and so forth, and they just developed the spirit and a mindset about being there for one another. Now, that permeated down to then you had to develop leadership on your team, right? And the leaders of that team, I remember our junior year, we lost a big game against Weston with a sentence to the city. But and then in the subsequent follow-up games after that, the coaching staff didn't believe the seniors were being the type of leaders that they needed to be. So they came and got us, the seniors, called a meeting, so on and so forth, right? And I say that to make this point, because at that point, from the end of 1985 football season, where we had a spectacular hoop season going into that deal, and then my senior year, we used to have a thing where we would say fight or be friends, right? And what that meant was, listen, anything that goes against the grain of winning and being successful, then we're gonna have to fight and be friends about it. You know, wasn't gonna be anything about we're gonna carry this on. Hey, listen, this is the way we do it. This is how we're gonna do it. Everybody fall in line. And so those things just kept, you know, you never really had to fight. You can get, you know, in most teams, organizations, marriages, whatever, there's gonna be disagreements, there's gonna be shakeups. But the baseline was everything is about the end product of what we're trying to create. And so that carried itself on. And that's why Brookhaven was the way it was from that moment going forward.
That's good. I know how important. Yeah, I know how important family is to you. How was that experience coaching your son in football and track? How was that experience?
Very challenging. So much so that it impacted it was seriously impacting the relationship in those first 2 years. Then I had to realize that I had to turn it on and off. So I had to figure out, all right, when I talk to you in this fashion, it's about, you know, I'm talking to you as coach.
Right.
All right, boom. Now we get in the car, we ride home, we had the conversations. All right, boom. Now we on dad time. And so that's allowed itself, it's allowed the relationship to flourish even more now that he's down and running track at Clemson. And I'm sure everybody who will watch this will see my posts and I share, you know, what's going on with Amon. And so, but that was a heck of a ride because, man, you know, he's hard headed, I'm high energy, and man, you know, it was this, you know. But one thing I can say about him, even through the midst of all of that, the ups and the downs, he had what I had was an intense passion for wanting to be really good. And I love him because I never had to question my son, our son, for coming to practice. When we came to practice, and that cat came to practice, he came to work. And there would be some resentment from the other guys, you know, not because, and what I made sure of, it couldn't be resentment because you felt like I showed him any favoritism. Matter of fact, that's a lot of reason why we would kind of fall out, because he's like, man, you riding me and some of these other cats. And I turn around and say to the other kids, hey man, if I could ride my child, right, get on him about being great, so on and so forth, you can best believe I'm gonna do it with you all. So, but his hard work, his dedication, his commitment has lent itself along with the talent. And that's what the challenging part is when you're talking to young people today. Like, talent is never enough. Jim Tressel said that. Talent is never enough. So his successes that he's reaping is because he go to work.
Right. Right.
Success only comes before work in the dictionary.
Right.
The only place. Vince
Mhm.
Lombardi. So I won't take credit for that. That's Vince
Mhm.
Lombardi.
Yeah.
So that was beautiful, in that I'm able to travel and go watch him and be
Right.
so proud and
Mhm.
just remember when I talk to him now, hey son, this is journey and process.
Yeah.
It's not perfection, it's progress.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. That state championship race. Take me there
Wow.
and fight him. Yeah.
Wow. To watch him get prepared, to watch him warm up, knowing that he was ready,
Mm.
uh, so on and so forth, to go out there. I remember not being able to watch much of that because you think about it's still somewhat post-traumatic for me when he gets bundled up in those 800s because I
Right.
watched him go down and he got tripped up in that race and then
Mhm.
found his way through. And then when I seen coming around and you're realizing the sheer ecstasy, like this fool is about to be a
He
state
gonna win
champion,
this thing.
and man, I get emotional thinking about that now because as I shared the other day in a post on Facebook, it ain't about the winning. It's the days of cussing out. It's the days of hard work. It's the days of throwing up. It's the days of not talking,
Mhm.
right? It's the days of talking about set your legacy. You asked me about legacy. I told
Mhm.
you that whole senior year, every track meet we go to, we are going to set the record in those stadiums, right? I
Mhm.
don't care if it was out there in the Ridgeway or wherever we was running at one time. Leave a record. Put your name in that record book out there.
Mhm.
He left his mark in the city. The great the kid from the kid Jimmy Greggs that ran for Brookhaven, who was a great 100 runner, and then his competition, the brother that ran at Northland, he broke that record from
Mhm.
that's since the 90s. So he's in that conversation. He's in those annals. And so those are all the things that come back to me and my different trials and tribulations, so on and so forth. And you realize you're passing this along to ensure or try to ensure that those in the generations that follow, they just don't make those same mistakes. So between him coaching my own son, as tough as I did, and coaching those other young men, if you're watching, if you pull this up, that's all it was ever about. You
Mhm.
want to see the people that you touch, you want them to find their greatness, you want them to find success because it's a powerful thing to give it away to somebody else and watch them the glow in that fire in their eyes.
Right.
And so that's what I got from all of that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that drives us is that we've tasted success, so we know what it feels like, and we want these kids to feel that,
Yeah.
to experience that. Yeah, that's what drives us. That's why we drive them because we know what that's like. Ain't no greater feeling than that, man. We want them to have that opportunity, that to have that successful moment. I know now you're beginning to do some quarterback work with some young quarterbacks. How's that going for you? How did that come about?
Giving my gift away.
Hmm.
You know, people sold into me
Hmm.
and I wanted to turn around and like, what is my gift? So, and it's never about the money. I got guys that train with me like, man, this is cheap because it's not about trying to break the bank. Yeah, I charge a nominal fee, right, to teach you something that you're going to be able to give away to somebody else,
Hmm.
whether it be you become a quarterback at the collegiate level, whether you become a quarterback at the professional level, or maybe you become a coach like I did. So I take the time into really coaching it up, teaching it up, how to play the position. The why of it is because, again, goes all the way back to the beginning. You know, A, quarterbacks don't grow on trees. B, black quarterbacks, while we're now in vogue, so to speak,
Hmm.
right? There still has to be somebody that teaches them from the ground level up.
Right.
And and I don't want them just to be the running quarterback. I don't want you just to be the multi athletic guy. I want you to be able to be the Tom Brady if you
Hmm.
can be. right? Where you understand my talent may not be Michael Vick, it may not be Lamar Jackson, but doggone it, man, I can think this game and
Right.
I can put the ball where it's supposed to go. I can command my team. I got great humility, right? And then through my eyes and feet, you know, I got incredible accuracy of, you know, the ball placement. And so that's why I do that. And I have a lot of ball with it. Matter of fact, I'm probably a lot more relaxed in that environment than I am coaching, you know,
No, that's right.
and leading the team. So that's
Right.
why I do that.
Right. That's great. I want to end with this. You know, you're at a banquet, thousands of young coaches, with young coaches out there, you know, come to hear you share this word with them. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna introduce you. I want to introduce to you young men today, young coaches. As a our final speaker of the evening is a coach who's been around this game for a while. He's had great success. And I want him to give you all a word of encouragement as you're a young coach starting out in this deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Coach Anthony Thornton.
Thank you, Tim Brown. This is a great honor and an opportunity to do this. And so be a master of your craft. Be a master of your craft, right? And be a professional at all times, right? And those are the two pieces of advice that I'm going to give to young people, young coaches, those that aspire. You're never too old to learn. At the advanced age of 50 plus, I still go out there and I connect with people. I talk to them about it. You have now with the advent of technology, YouTube, so on and so forth, you can go out there and pick things up in terms of things that you may or may not have known. You make your connections, you network with coaches that are in your circle and even outside of your circle. But the main thing is be an ultimate professional in what you do, but even more so, and I believe this to be the God's honest truth, and that is you got to be a master of your craft. When you're a master of your craft, you do whatever it is to sharpen your skills to make sure that you are and you strive to be the best at what it is that you do.
Well, thank you, Coach. I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a blessing just hearing all these words of wisdom and gems that you've shared. But I want to encourage you, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, and I'll take the sports off the table. I want to thank you for what I've seen you in the classroom. I've seen those things that you do for students that don't play football for you, or don't run track for you, but just those life lessons that you're teaching them. And that's our greatest reward, is that we are educators. You know, we're educators. It doesn't matter. I know you'll see a young guy that not on your football team, you'll still share a word with it, a word of encouragement with them. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your transparency, how you are what you are. You know, ain't nothing, you're gonna get what this is Coach. This is what you're gonna get. That's all I know. All I know. But hearing your story now, I know where that came from, you know. And so what happens to a lot of guys, there's nothing really, nobody's putting anything inside of them to come out of them, you know. And yes. I know that you putting some stuff in some guys and they'll have that aha moment. Oh, that's what Coach Thornton meant. That's what he meant. You know, it may not happen to him now, but at some point in life, they'll hear that. And you've been around long enough to know that you've had a lot of guys who come back and thank you. You know, thank you, Coach, for not giving up on me. Thank you, Coach, for being hard on me. You know, thank you, Coach, for instilling that discipline on me. Now I'm a husband, I'm a father, you know, and I'm raising my kids or whatnot. And so that's the joy of this whole thing. So I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for not forgetting about the city.
If I could leave two things, because you just said something. One of my young men that I used to have battles with, he's now coaching in a youth league, and he's returned to me, and he's like, "Thank you, Coach. I get it." Mm-hmm. And those are the most rewarding, even though it's 10 years later or whatever the case. But the thing I would leave with the group and the audience, your audience, you're doing a magnificent job in fostering and growing this word and these things. But kings lose crowns, but teachers stay intelligent. And oftentimes, man, folks are operating to be kings versus being teachers. And when you become a master of your craft and you begin to teach it to others, in your circle, watch how your circle grows infinitely. When you are working to be a king, you know, you ask those kids in the classroom, what happens to kings? What happens to tyrants? What happens to dictators? Right? Ultimately, they're overthrown. At some point in time, they become overthrown because they're not about the people, they're about themselves. So be a teacher. You always stay intelligent that way. So thank you so much, Tim. This has been a blessing more to me than you can imagine.
Gotta say amen to that one. I don't want to add anything. Well, I appreciate your time, Coach. And be blessed. Right. Enjoy that run with your son, because it ain't over yet. You know.
No, not at all. So thank you very much for having me.